Hey everybody, welcome to the very last Max Creative Challenge here on Adobe Live. I'm here with my friend Marisa Blair to work on an awesome design of a digital coloring book in XD. So if you've ever wanted to learn anything about UI UX design, you're in the right place. And if you want to follow alongside Marisa, make sure you check out the link in the chat for the awesome blog post that she worked on, the written tutorial, and you can even get the assets that Marisa is going to be working on. So without further ado, Marisa, maybe you can introduce yourself for the folks who haven't had the pleasure yet.
Yes, what's up everyone? My name is Marisa Blair. I'm a designer. I have my own blog and YouTube channel called Exopixel, and it's essentially the place for creatives like you watching to, grow your digital design skills through creative projects and engaging tutorials. So I have tutorials on app design, web design, graphic design, and even web development. And speaking of creative projects, I guess we can segue into today's project, today's Max project. Yeah, so we are, as Kathleen stated, we're designing and prototyping a digital coloring book, and it's Max themed. And you'll just need a few things to, participate. So the first thing you'll need is Adobe XD, preferably the latest version because there's so many cool updates. Yeah. And the second thing you'll need is a Creative Cloud library made exclusively for this challenge. And I believe maybe in the Behance chat, they're maybe providing a link for you to get the Creative Cloud library. Awesome. And then the final thing, and I really want to stress this, but participate in the Max Creative Challenge. There's so many amazing challenges over the past 2 days. And I just would love to see what you create. So be sure to use the hashtag Max Creative Challenge. And yeah, I'd love to see what you create. And feel free to tag me on social media at Exopixel with 2 L's. And then finally, I just wanted to kind of shed out some inspiration behind today's coloring book app. So this app was inspired by some popular coloring book apps, including Coloring Book, Color Collab, Color Me, and Colorfly. So I don't know if anyone has ever used a coloring book app before. Kathleen, have you?
I have not, but I'm guessing it's super relaxing.
Yes, definitely relaxing. And if you're watching, feel free to shout some apps in the chat, or if you've ever used one. But I know time is of the essence, so let's just get started.
Okay.
All right, so the first thing we're going to need to do is we need to set up our artboards. So we need to add 2 artboards. So in the left-hand toolbar here, I'm just going to open up the artboard panel, and I'm going to grab an iPhone X artboard and plop it onto the screen. So we need 2 artboards. So I'm just going to, with this artboard selected, press Command D on my keyboard, and we've got 2 artboards. And let's name the first artboard Home and the second artboard Coloring. There we go. Now we also need to add a background color. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to select both artboards, and I'm going to hold down Shift so I can do that. And in my coloring book Creative Cloud library, I'm just going to select this air color, and we have our background colors. So easy. So now let's move on over to officially step number 1, which is adding a status bar, featured banner, and categories to our home screen. So that's our first screen here. So I'm just going to look for the status bar. There it is. I'm going to plop it onto my artboard right at the top here. And we also need our featured banner. So I'm going to, under graphics, grab the featured banner. And as you can see, it's Max themed. We got that nice Max gradient with some really cool illustrations. And the last thing we need to do is grab the categories. So I'm gonna go under components, grab categories, and place it below the featured banner. So now let's move on over to step number 2. And this is where we need to create our gallery. And we need to create a 2-column, 8-row gallery. So right under graphics, I'm gonna grab gallery placeholder, plop it onto the home screen. And I'm just gonna adjust the positioning ever so slightly. There we go. And now we need to enable the repeat grid. So with this graphic selected, I'm just gonna hit Command R on my keyboard and enable everyone's favorite feature in XD, which is the repeat grid.
Yes.
And I'm just gonna drag this out like so. And I'm just gonna go in between the grid and just kind of adjust the padding. And we need 8 rows, so 2, 4, 6, 8. And let me just go in and adjust the padding here. There we go. So now we need to duplicate the grid. So I'm just gonna select it, press Command D on my keyboard, and now we have a duplicate of this grid. And now we can just ungroup it. So I'm just gonna select this whole thing, right click, and select Ungroup Grids. So now that we have our grid set up, we can add our character illustrations. And shout out to Rocky Work for providing these really cool Adobe themed illustrations. Yes. So I'm just gonna grab some illustrations and drop it onto the grid. So we can add our digital designer, our illustrator, we have a print designer, videographer, let's add our UX designer, photographer. Who do we have left? We can add, we'll add our illustrator and videographer. Yeah, anyone will do. Okay, so the last thing we need to do now that we have our grid completed and our illustrations, we just need to enable vertical scroll. So I'm just gonna select this whole grid, and in the right-hand panel here, I'm gonna select vertical scroll. And now I can just click this handlebar, move it on up, and let's just quickly preview what I just did. And we're scrolling, just like that, so easy. Okay, so now let's move on over to step number 3. And we need to add a tab bar to the home screen. So right where it says, or in the components area, we need to look for the tab bar. So there it is. And I'm just gonna drag it onto the home screen like so. And there we go. We completed our home screen. It looks so good.
Wow, that's
so now
fast.
Let's move on. I know, it's so fast and it's so easy. It's so easy to do. And I want anyone of any skill level to participate, no excuses. So now moving on to step number 4. So we are going to add the header navigation to our coloring screen. So again, in our components, we're just going to grab the header navigation. And we're gonna place it right at the top here. And now moving on to step number 5, we need to add our illustration to the coloring screen. So what we're gonna do is where it says graphics, I'm gonna grab what's called this illustration placeholder. So I'm just gonna drag it, drop it onto the coloring artboard, like so. And now I'm going to grab this demo illustration. So I'm just gonna put it onto the pasteboard here. And as you can see, it's so big. Right. Like this is crazy big, and we don't wanna leave it like this. We want to be able to, you know, maybe pan around the illustration, kind of like in a coloring book app. So what we're gonna do is let's just select this illustration. And again, in the right-hand panel, I'm going to select horizontal and vertical scroll. And now all I need to do is just resize this frame. And now it's fit nicely into this, I guess, container. So really quickly, I'm just gonna preview this. And now we can pan our image. This looks so cool.
Amazing.
So we're coming along, so let's move on over to step number 6. So this is where we're going to design our coloring tools. So the first thing we need to do is we need to create a grid. that's 4 columns and 2 rows. So I'm going to select this component, and I'm going to hit Command R to turn on the repeat grid. So we need to create 5 columns. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then 2 rows. And I'm just going to adjust the padding. There's a little more space. There we go. And now I'm just going to ungroup the grid because we made our grid. And now what I want to do is I want to be able to indicate to the user that this, I guess this color has been selected. So we need to create a new state for this component. And because this is our main component, anything we do to this component, it will be applied to all the instances of this component onto our artboard. So what I'm going to do where it says component is I'm just going to hit this plus icon and click new state, and we can name this new state selected. And I'm just going to zoom in here, kind of double click to go into this component, and where it says graphics, I'm going to grab this selected graphic and just kind of place it right into the center like so. And let's just double check to make sure it's been applied. Yes, it has, so it looks good. And as you can see, I already kind of went in and filled or colored in this illustration. So I kind of know what colors I'm going to apply to each of these components. And in the actual illustration, there are numbers associated with each section on our illustration. So let's just quickly kind of update maybe 2 of these components. So we already have 1, and that looks like it's the face area. So I'm just going to select this and hit I on my keyboard to grab the face color like that. And this should be applied to both states. Yes, it is. And now I'm going to select the second component, number it 2. And 2 looks like the hair. So I'm just going to hit I on my keyboard to grab the eyedropper tool again. And I'm going to grab the hair color. Cool. And I'm always going to make sure that I'm updating both states. There we go. So now, if you've gone through all of the steps to update everything here, it should look like this. All the colors are there. I know, it looks so cool. So we pretty much designed both screens already.
Fast.
So now, yes, so fast, very fast. So now we can get into the fun part, which is prototyping. So we're going to bring this to life. So what we're going to do first is we're going to prototype opening and closing the coloring screen. So what we're going to do is we're just going to head on over to prototype mode. So I'm just going to select prototype. And the first thing we're going to do is I'm going to select this this illustration, and we're going to wire it to the coloring screen like so. And in terms of the interactions, we can leave it at tap. We can leave this at transition. And for the animation, we can do a dissolve, and we'll set duration to 0.2 seconds. So let's just quickly demo that. There we go. So it goes to our coloring screen. Now we want to, let's say we don't want to color this illustration anymore. So we want to be able to hit this X and go back to the home screen. So to do that, I'm going to select the X icon, and I'm going to wire it back to the home screen. And we'll just leave all of these settings as is. So now, if we preview that, we go into our illustration, we can get out of it. We can go into it, we can get out of it. Very easy. So now let's move on over to our second prototype, which is coloring an area. So this is going to be very easy as well. So the first thing we need to do is we need to duplicate the coloring artboard. So we can just go back to design mode. I'm going to select the coloring artboard and press Command D to duplicate the artboard. And now we need to select an area on our illustration and apply a color. So I'm just gonna go into this hair area. Let me make sure I'm selecting it. And I'm going to hit I on my keyboard. Oops.
So you can select areas in XD if it's a vector.
Yes, you can. Another cool feature. Yes.
Yes.
So I'm just going to hit I on my keyboard. And we'll grab number 2. And we colored in just a section of her hair. And just make sure that the component is updated accordingly. So we've selected 2, and that's the color we're using to color in the hair area. So now we can go back to prototype mode and we can wire our artboards. So what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna select the coloring artboard, this first artboard, and wire it to the duplicate artboard. And we can leave these same interactions and transition as animations. We'll just leave it for now. So now let's just preview this whole thing in its entirety. So we go into our illustration, we can get out of it, or we can go into it again. And then we can tap on an area and we colored in an area in the illustration.
Magic. It's not magic, but it is.
It's so cool. It's very easy to do. So yeah, that's how you color in an area. So now we can move on over to the final prototype, which is undoing the color we just applied. So again, this is really easy. All we need to do, and I'm just gonna head back on over to design mode. So all we need to do is select this left arrow on the duplicate artboard, and we need to increase the opacity to 100%. Now, there's a few ways you can play around with opacity in XD. You can hit 0 on your keyboard, and that's gonna set it to 100%.
Cool.
Or in the appearance panel, you can just type in 100%, or you can use this and just drag it on out to 100%. So a few ways to change opacity. So now that we've done that, we can go back to prototype mode and we can wire the left icon to the coloring artboard. And we can just leave these interactions, animations, and the duration, we'll just leave that alone. And now if we preview everything one more time, it opens up our illustration. We can get out of it. We can go back into it. We can color in an area and we can undo the coloring. So cool.
I am thoroughly impressed.
So we're yeah, this is so cool, very easy to do. So if you've maybe never designed an app before, now's the time to maybe dabble into designing that and using prototypes. Yes. All right, so it looks like, do we have some time left?
Yeah, we got about 5 minutes.
We do? Okay, so I think I'm gonna show you how you can color in an area in an illustration in Adobe Illustrator. So I'm just gonna switch to Illustrator really quickly. And it's so easy, and this is the beauty of Creative Cloud Library. So you can essentially use them across so many different apps. So if you open today's library in Adobe Illustrator, you can just grab an illustration. How about we grab the UX designer, and I'm just gonna plop it onto my artboard in Illustrator. And if you select Edit Original, and in the toolbar, if you select Live Paint Bucket tool,
yes,
and we can just remove the border, but we can choose a color. What color should we choose? Kathleen, do you have any suggestions?
I'm thinking an orange today.
Orange, okay. So now let's say we want her coat to be orange. So we can just, oops, let me make sure I selected it. So I'm gonna grab the Live Paint Bucket tool. Oops. Make sure you select the color you want. And now we can fill in any color with orange.
That is so cool. I recently learned that with this tool, if you just tap the left and right arrows as well, you can really quickly change your color.
So true. So we can color this green. We can make her t-shirt blue. Red pants.
That's a look.
That is a look. And if I select this illustration and I go back to Adobe XD, I can just paste this like so. It's gonna load. And there we go, we have our illustration. I mean, it's not completely colored in, of course, but this is where you can grab all the colors and you can apply it in the coloring tools area. That's awesome. Very easy, just in case you're wondering how you can color in the vectors, but I encourage you to kind of go crazy with this, like make different screens, you know, maybe choose a different illustration. I love to see what you create. And again, be sure to use that hashtag Max Creative Challenge, and feel free to tag me because I love to see what you create.
Definitely. So chat, if you want to get that Creative Cloud library too, it's been posted in the chat many a times. Cody just posted it. Thank you, Cody. And we have a couple more minutes, chat. So if you have any XD related questions or just design questions in general, Marisa is here to help. And Marisa, do you see this application going anywhere else? Like maybe doing an export state or export screen?
Yeah, I think that would be so cool. And actually, I love how Adobe recently implemented 3D in XD. I think that is so amazing. I can't wait to, you know, play around with that.
I am interested in playing around with it as well, and I am not an XD designer, so that says something.
Yeah, it's so cool. And I also love the Creative Cloud library is now in its own dedicated panel.
Right, you know exactly where it's going to be all the time.
Yeah, exactly. Because I know before it was like a floating dialogue, so many cool new features.
That's awesome. Marisa, are you working on any interesting projects right now or recently?
Yes, I am. I cannot wait till it's out in the universe, but yes, I am working on a few projects right now, and hopefully I can get it out by the end of the year. Fingers crossed.
I think you can do it. If you're as fast with that project as you are with this prototype, I think you can do it.
I know, right? Oh, I hope. How about you? Are you working on anything exciting?
Oh, nothing so secretive, but definitely having Max under my belt is an exciting accomplishment.
Yes, for sure.
Yeah, and chat, I'll remind you again that this is the last Max Creative Challenge to go live. So if you want to check them all out, you can go to that landing page where we have Meg Lewis's challenge, Toby Shinobi's challenge, Marisa Joyner's challenge as well. So there's a lot of goodness, and you still have time to post that on social, maybe get it shared by the Adobe social accounts and possibly win a free year of Creative Cloud. Who knows? Excited. Yeah, so in the last couple minutes, Marisa, can you remind us where we can follow you on the interweb so we can get updated in the future?
Yes, of course. So feel free to follow me on Instagram, Twitter, at Exopixel with 2 L's. And feel free to subscribe to my YouTube channel because I have tutorials coming out every single week.
Every week? For real?
Well, okay. I'm trying to do it every week.
That's the goal. That's the goal.
Yeah, but the goal is every week.
That's awesome. People in chat are saying that they're finding you on social. So that's great. And I totally, recommend checking out that YouTube, especially because we all need tutorials all the time. And Marisa is definitely a good source for them.
Thank you.
Cool. Well, chat, maybe we can take a look at the schedule for the rest of the day because we have more things coming up right after us. So we've got some stock goodness coming up right after us, and then Nick Longo and Andrew Hochrattle are going to close out Max for us with 2 sessions back to back. I think their sessions yesterday were really popping off. They're really, there are a lot of people in there, so make sure you come back for that. But until then, we'll be back in about 5 minutes with the next segment. So thank you, Marisa, for being here. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you for having me. Have fun at Max, everyone.
Thanks, everybody. We'll be back in a couple.